Did you want to take a picture first? Or
Oh, right. Where's my phone?
see, Monica came back.
I'm trying to figure out the lighting. Normally the light from outside is bright enough because the light reflects in the mirror behind me. So I'm just trying to figure out how to not be bright.
I turned my whole desk around because I was in the dark.
Oh.
Yeah. But I'm not talking, so it really doesn't matter.
All right, everybody look at their camera and smile. Perfect. No mouths open, no eyes closed. All right.
It is surprisingly hard to get a good picture. And it's one of those things that if you're doing 10 webinars, the people change, but it's like another picture of a webinar. It's way less interesting than like kids in hard hats or, like some of the things that we actually see when we get to do site visits.
Yeah.
It's not quite as intriguing.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like students, we've got you guys on. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up or raise your hand or use the chat feature. Just one of you guys let me know. All right, thanks, Tori. Thank you guys, that is helpful. So welcome, good morning. My name is Corinne Coulter and I'm the Program Director at Education for Tomorrow Alliance. And students, you are part of our first panel kicking off our Summer 2020 Student Internship Program. That is all online, as you guys know. Thank you for participating with us so far and getting assignments turned in and joining us today. This is our architecture career panel, and so we have four professionals that represent different groups, different organizations, and kind of had different roles within those organizations. And so we're excited to be able to bring them to you guys to tell us a little bit about their story, but then also answer the questions that you guys have. We have many panels for you guys to select from, so thank you for joining us today. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. So I will have our panelists introduce themselves, and then we will just jump right into a Q&A time for students, for you guys to get your questions answered. So if you prepared some questions on the front end, or if they say something that kind of sparks an interest and you want to know more, this is your opportunity to ask those questions. These panelists and these volunteers have said yes to spending time with you guys today. And so now is your chance to learn all that you've wanted to learn about the architecture world. So when you have a question, you can either type it in the chat feature or raise your hand, and I will bring you in kind of as a panelist to allow you to ask your question yourself, so that I'm not talking all the time for you guys. If you have questions along the way, feel free to put those in the chat feature also, and I will try to get those answered. We are recording today so that future students can have the opportunity to rewatch this, or students that are with us today, you can rewatch this later on. So we are set and ready to go. It is 9:03, and I want to respect everybody's time. I will have our panelists introduce themselves. So Jinder, if you would like to start, you can
Sure.
get the ball rolling.
All right. Hello, emerging professionals. Hope we don't scare you off today, but architecture can be pretty fun if you enjoy that kind of stuff. My name is Jander Ortiz. I work for VLK Architects. Going back to my high school, I graduated in 1994. I went to the University of, I went first to Texas Tech University. I spent about a year there. Then I transferred to University of Houston, where I completed my bachelor's in architecture in 2000. From there, I've been in the industry. I actually, when I was in my third year of college, just as an assignment from school, to do a paper on how computers affected the architecture industry, I had to interview a person at a company called Page Sutherland Page. They're still in business, and he asked, "Why don't you come in and see what we can get you a job?" And I was like, "Wow, really?" So anyways, so I started working in the architecture industry about 1997-ish, and been in there since. So, and now I'm with VLK Architects. I am a project coordinator. What I do is pretty much kind of I produce the construction documents that are used by the contractor to build a building. We, as a firm, we concentrate a lot on the educational industry. So we do a lot of schools, elementary, junior highs, high schools, and other ancillary buildings that the school district need. Not to go into any further, but I'll allow somebody else to keep on going.
Thank you, Jander.
Mhm.
Julian, I'll pass the ball over to you.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Jillian DeFee. I am an interior designer at DLR Group, based out here in Houston. I graduated with my Bachelor's of Science in Interior Design from Baylor University, and I am not much older than you guys. I'm very new in this field, just coming up on my second year. The reason why I went into interior design is because I was so interested in how the human psychology and how we as humans interact with our environment, and interior design is right there alongside with architecture. We have the opportunity to build those environments that have an effect on people. And so I feel it's a great opportunity to have a positive effect on many people by designing environments that are beneficial to their health, safety, and well-being. So I work primarily in K-12 interiors, designing schools, just like Jander said, from ages kindergarten all the way through high school. I've also had some experience in workplace design, so doing all types of corporate offices and tech companies all the way to like law offices. But right now I'm working mostly in K-12 interiors. And just for the information, interior design is definitely not just picking out colors. So if you have any questions on what that might look like, just know up front that interiors has a lot to do with space planning and, you know, where are rooms going to go and how big are they going to be, and then what do the aesthetics of them look like, of course, as well as durability of finishes and all of those types of details. So if you have any questions about interiors, you can ask me.
Thank you. All right, Krista.
Hey guys, my name is Krista Thomas, and I also work with Jander Ortiz at BLK Architects, primarily doing K through 12, as he said. I started off in architecture in high school, actually. I went to Cypher High School in Cypher ISD and took my first architecture class my junior year, I believe it was. And that's kind of where I had a really great teacher, and he was kind of like one of those, if you wanted to learn, he was there to teach you. And he was really excited about architecture, so that got me excited about it. And that's where I first learned like Revit, AutoCAD, all the things that we still use to this day. In actual the professional world, I learned starting in high school, so that was great, kind of kickstart me into those programs. From high school, I went to UTSA for 2 years, and then I transferred from UTSA to A&M, where I was at A&M for the next 3 years, and then graduated with my bachelor's in environmental design through the College of Architecture there. And then I started working at VLK a week after I graduated college. I actually met our director at a career fair at Texas A&M, which was great because they were one of the last tables, because I had put them on my list because their office was close to kind of where my parents had lived. And I was like, well, that's a good idea to probably go save some money after college, you know, get my bearings. And they were one of the last tables I went to, and ended up being a great decision to kind of stick around and look them out, because I've been there since 2015 to now. So I just hit my 5-year anniversary this past week. So if you have any questions about either through college or the professional world, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Krista. All right, and Tara?
Hello, my name is Katura Williams. I too started my architecture career very early in high school. I am currently a senior architect with DLR Group. I work very closely with Jillian in the K-12 design team. I also work in the higher ed design team as well. I've been with DLR Group about 3 years now. And we do a lot of K-12 school design, both here in Texas and across the country. As I said, I started my architecture, path to architecture very early in my freshman year of high school. I decided to be an architect at age 15 after taking woodshop and then deciding that I like to really put things together. And then the next class was, of course, drafting. I'm not that old, but I did learn drafting by hand first. So I still know how to draft by hand, which is a skill that's a lost art. So you ever get the chance to see someone's hand drafted drawings, it's pretty amazing. I don't count myself in that group, so I'm not bragging or anything. I went to school in Katy ISD. They're one of the unique programs back in the day that had early career technology programs. So I was able to really decide if I wanted to be an architect before I started college. I had the opportunity to intern with both an architecture firm and an engineering firm for a semester each. So I had to determine if I wanted to be an engineer and architect. I decided, yes, I wanted to be an architect. So I attended the University of Houston. I got my Bachelor of Architecture in 2005. And I've been working here in Houston for my entire career. I'm a native Houstonian, so there is some real value in attending school and then continue your career in the same city. I firmly believe that. A lot of the connections and relationships that I started in college have developed all the way through my career, and I'm year 16 of my career now. And while I don't do a lot of the design work anymore, I currently work as a project manager. So my role is that I have to know what every member of the team is doing at all times. So it's a lot of working to make sure the team has solid relationships with each other within our internal team, as well as our teammates outside of the office, as well as our client's representative teammates. So it's a lot of moving parts, but project management, I think, is just as exciting as the design aspect of architecture. And if anyone is interested in the technical side or more of the business side of architecture, don't be afraid of still pursuing the path of being an architect.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And then I will also have Monica, who is also with the EfTA, introduce herself. So students, you see our names, but now you see our faces and you know who we are.
Good morning. I thank you, students, for being a part of this, and thank you to our volunteers for being here. I know Corinne and I are always, it's really fun to hear people who are passionate about their work share their stories, share how they got where they are, share what's exciting about it. And so hopefully, students, you take up those little nuggets. So not only kind of their educational background and, the path that they've taken, but listen to the skills, listen to the opportunities, listen to, why this one likes that and the other one likes something different. Having that moment to really hear those real stories are the things that help shape that path. Just like some of the folks said, when they had those internships or they had those opportunities to meet architects when they were young. And so I just encourage you to make the most of it, because they are gifting you their time and their knowledge today. And like I said, Kern and I just get a kick out of it, because it's really fun to hear how you got where you are, because you all do, in some broad ways, similar work, but you all got there lots of different ways. And that is something for you students to pick up on and learn from. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we will now enter into our question and answer portion. So students, I will ask the first question just to, so we don't have some downtime, but I would like for you guys to start submitting questions. And as you submit them, and once we get one answered, I'll bring one of you in to be able to ask your question live to the panel. So to get us started and giving time for students to ask their questions, if you guys could share, this is kind of the question that we love to ask all of our panelists because it changes every time. What's that one skill that you recommend that students start to cultivate and learn to help as they progress into their senior year and into college and then into the workforce themselves?
I would say, as far as I would say organization and communication is a big key in architecture industry, and as well as any other industry too. I think if you master those two things, you do very well at the start and throughout your entire career, especially communication. That's the key that we handle that every day at work. We have to communicate. We communicate through Zoom now, but you know, our office, as you can see here behind me, this is our office, and it's most of the architecture firms have the open concept because we communicate with each other. You know, we pop our heads up. Hey, how are you doing this? And what are you doing? I'm having issues with this, and I'm having issues with that. And you talk to each other, you know, and you can be a high school intern to, you know, a principal in a company, and you are still asking questions on how to do things. You know, hey, how did you do this? Or how did you do that? You are always problem solving at the office. And communication, if you don't have that, if you're just kind of rolled up in a ball, you know, you're not going to get anywhere. So be open, communicate, talk with people. Don't be afraid to, and you'll get very far.
I would also add, on top of communication, is learning how to communicate your ideas. So a lot of the times what we use is the Adobe Suite program. And that was another thing that I learned early on, either in high school and even took classes. They weren't necessarily on my degree path, but I took them as my elective courses in college. And learning those Adobe Suites is a great tool because every time we send something over to a client, you have to remember, like, we look at this stuff every day and we understand what a door looks like in plan. We know what a window looks like in plan, but to somebody that's never really looked at floor plans before, even elevations of a building, they don't understand these things. So you have to make sure that when you're sending things, especially now living in this like virtual world, when you're sending things, how you're communicating that, not just through your words, but through it visually. And how do you add depth even to your drawings, and really just looking at, when you're looking at your elevations, when you're putting them into CDs, does it actually read the way you want it to read? So all that is communication, but it's these different facets of the communication that make your day-to-day life easier to communicate with not only your client, but even your coworkers.
I would also add that I'm sure you all have heard the term time management, but it really is a skill that is really valuable for all of us to learn earlier in our path to adulthood, starting with college. Once you're out of high school, there is no one to make you go to class. It is up to you to get yourself to class. It is up to you to get your assignments done. It is up to you to balance your workload between your academic-based core academic classes and your design studio courses. So learning what time management means to you and what that looks like to you is going to be part of your development as you choose any career path. It's the same for architecture or any other career. And time management doesn't look the same for every person. Some people work better by having a steady flow to their process, and some people honestly don't want to be stressed about an issue for too long, so they wait to a certain time in the timeline and then they get it all done. Those people are equally successful as those who stage out their work in a timely process. So understanding how best you do your work, and how best you are successful at getting your work done, is a skill. Once you figure that out, you can apply that to any path, any task you have throughout the rest of your life.
Yeah, and to that, what Katara was saying, there's a saying, I'm sure you've all heard it, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's a great thing to hear, but it's also important to remember that even if you are doing what you love, there's going to be good days and hard days. And so it's important to learn now in this time that you have in high school, maybe if science is not what you love, but you're assigned a science project, to find something inside of that science project that you really, really love and that you feel comfortable with and that you can take and run with. Because I think when you learn how to do that and how to thrive even in a situation that you might not really love, the circumstances surrounding it, you'll be able to really do some deep dive into self and find what you like to do and what parts of creativity are your strong suits, and you'll be able to really figure those things out early on. So if you can do that, even in things that you might not say like, I love that, or I absolutely don't want to write this essay, but if you can find a part of that essay that you have to write that really makes you excited, then learn that now, because that will be something you'll definitely be able to take with you.
Some of the, as far as, some high school classes that you could, take, I guess, some of the misconception about architecture is, what do we actually do? Anything that's in the movies out there, oh, hey, yeah, you're actually, drawing up pictures and stuff like that. And you don't actually get to see the technical side of it, and that's what mostly all of us do, is that we have to produce the technical side of it. An architect, yes, we have a vision and we have a concept, but we have to place that concept into drawings that gets it built. And we all do that. We all provide those technical drawings to get the job built. So, I mean, you can say, art, math is very important to know those skills, and sometimes, you're being very good with your hands, but, frankly, after college, I haven't built a model since college, since 2000. And I'm always on the computer, and I'm always actually doing construction documents on the computer. And I can show you, some glimpse of the software that we have, if you're interested in that too.
Thank you. So I'm gonna, Jinder, we'll get you to show that screen here in a little bit, so don't get rid of it. But I'm gonna bring in, we've got some questions coming in. So Tori, I'm gonna bring you in to be able to ask that first question.
Hi, thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. And my question is, what does a typical workday look like for you?
Okay, I guess I can start off. So I think everybody has a different workday depending on their roles within in the company. For me, typical day, I go into the office and I'm in charge of 4, 5 projects right now, and they range from starting to actually in construction. So I have to kind of sit down. I actually do this the night before and kind of get in my time management, and I have to find out what's my course of action for that day. I got stuff that I need to get done for all projects, so I have to time management my day to find out, okay, I got an hour here, an hour there, or there might be something more critical that I have to devote more time to. So I get in office and I have my team. I have their roles that they're supposed to be doing to help me out, to help the project out. And then after that, I can get into the weeds as far as getting into the documents, or I can make phone calls, talk to clients, make sure their concerns are being addressed. Also, I have to talk to the contractors if there's items, if there's problems on the job site, problems with our drawings. And yes, we're not perfect, just because we issue out drawings. I haven't, for the 20-something years I've been in here, there hasn't been a perfect set of drawings at all. There is some mistakes. There's some things that we miss, but part of our daily work is that we have to solve those problems. We have to investigate, research, and then find a solution that works for everybody. And that's pretty much my work day every day. I also, from time to time, I have to go to job sites. I have two of my projects that are under construction, and we as a project coordinator, project manager, or even it can be an intern too, we have to go out to the job sites and make sure that it is being constructed correctly. So yes, we put on a hard hat, safety vest, and we have to go out there and walk with the contractor and make sure that our drawings are being followed. And if you guys did come, for the internship, as we've done in the past, we would take you onto those job site visits, kind of show you this, and then go back to the office and say, see this detail or see this drawing? That's what you saw on the job site. And it just puts it more in perspective. Sorry, we can't really do that this year, but don't be afraid if you are interested in architecture. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask our company, other companies. If you ask and say, hey, can I job shadow you for a day or two? We are very open to that. We are always looking for people. We're always looking for emerging professionals is what we call. And you can easily job shadow anybody in our office, or just come in the office and kind of, all right, what exactly does an architecture office look like? And you can really get hands-on on what we actually do. So don't be afraid to ask that. I mean, even now during this time, might be a little difficult, but we are open to it. And I'm pretty sure other companies are open to it. All you have to do is ask. Do not be afraid to ask. And sometimes our EfTA internships that we have, we also do other programs that we actually hire those kids when they're out of college during the summer. We actually have summer internship jobs, and we actually pay them to come in the office and help us out with things. And then when school comes back, then they leave. Or some of them actually stay and work kind of part-time. Again, every individual is different, so don't be afraid.
I'll go ahead and answer this one. Tori, good to meet you. So when I was in high school, I remember watching my dad get up and go to work every day, and he would have to put on a suit and go to this whole corporate America job style downtown, and that was honestly very off-putting to me. I did not think that was exciting, and I didn't want to go to just sit at a desk all day and do the same thing every single day. I needed some variety. And so for me, as an interior designer, every day really does look a little bit different. And that's one thing that I really love about our field, is that it is so creative, and that we have the opportunity to engage those creative sides of our job each and every single day. And so it's like my mission that every day I will not be doing the same thing, because that really drains me, and it makes me feel so I want to make every day different and changed up a little bit. And so as Jander was saying a second ago, we in our profession do spend a lot of time on the computer. But one thing that I have learned recently is that in such a creative field such as ours, I personally have to start with pen to paper, or touching and feeling the materials that I'm specifying, or sketching or writing out words that are inspirational to me, or going outside and getting inspiration somewhere else. Because if I try to just go directly to the computer, I get really lost in the weeds. And so just take that as some encouragement that everybody's creative process does look very different, and that yours can look exactly how you want it to look, but give yourself the freedom and the grace to be able to engage those habits in whatever feels right for you, because that way you'll be able to shape your day to be the most productive, but your day, your productivity might not look like someone else's productivity. Katura and I sit right next to each other in our office, but we have very different productivity types of mentalities. And so it's really interesting to get to watch that. But that's one thing that's awesome about our field, is that everybody has the freedom to be able to kind of figure that out and do your work in the best way that you can.
Yeah, as Jillian touched on, my typical day, each day is different. And that's one of the things I really enjoy, even about at the project management level, your day, about in architecture and design in general, each day is different. Depending on what issue is coming off the job site when you have projects in construction, what issue the design team is working on, what milestone the project is in, or what curveball your client has thrown at you. You're going to have to change, course correct, and perhaps that day have to work on something different than you did the day before. So for me as a project manager, every single day is different for me. I'm currently managing 4 projects, 4 schools. The most projects I've had to manage at one time was nine full design and construction projects, ground up. That was a bit much, but I did manage to get it done. But so right now I have 4, and depending on what state the project is in, kind of determines what I'm going to be addressing that day. For projects that are in construction, like Jander mentioned, we're focusing I start the day usually with emails, 6:37 in the morning, checking in on whatever the contractor has already started pushing out to us. I'm making sure I check in with my project architect and project coordinators to see that they're getting what they need from their team, and also how we're planning to address any critical issue that the contractor or client has brought up. If necessary, I'm talking to the project manager on the contractor side to see what critical items are coming up that we need to focus on, especially on larger projects where there's only one project architect who he or she is focusing on key issues on the project. So I step in to help focus on other issues that need to get done concurrently. When a project is in design, I'm working on making sure the design team has the information they need from the client, and if necessary from consultants who've been unresponsive. If a project, and then if it's if projects or everything is off my to-do list on projects, then I'm, depending on the time of the month, I am reviewing project financials and the overall project schedules to make sure that we're still in line with our targets when it comes to how much available money we have to spend on the project in design and construction, as well as making sure that we're meeting the schedules that our client has set out for us, and we're meeting the schedules that the contractor needs us to deliver information back to them to keep construction moving along, so that they, on their side, are making their schedules. And so, so some days I have a meeting every hour starting at 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. And then some days I actually get to sit down and do work. So it's a variety of opportunities, and there's something for everyone, I will say.
I was just gonna add to, besides just like a typical work day, to get to that work day, you have to make it through the college part. And something that was really appealing to me is that my typical college day was very hands-on, and that was something that was really appealing to me, because I am not like a lecture type person. I am fidgeting all the time. Like, I want to get up, I want to be moving, I want to be touching things. Like, that part of it was really appealing to me, and that each day you're in studio, you're actually there, you're building something, you're working together, you're collaborating, and that really does help you get through those college years, because studio is pretty tough. And learning a lot of those communication skills kind of just makes it full circle back to the workplace. And having those, every day is not the same thing, and that's how it was through college too. So that's something to think about too. If you're not like your typical lecture hall, like sitting in taking notes all day, architecture was a good alternative for me.
Thank you, guys. Okay, Santiago, I'm going to bring you in so that you can ask your question.
Hello. So I've heard and seen that there are state certifications for architecture. So my question was, what is the path towards certification, and do you need to do it to go into the industry?
Okay. Hi, Santiago. So we do have certification to become a licensed architect. And I mean, I haven't done this in a while, but I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Krista or Jillian and teacher, I think first it's still, you have to go through IDP. And IDP is an intern development program where you have to produce, I guess, a worksheet that has your hours that you worked in an architecture firm, to document that. And once you complete that IDP, then you are eligible to start taking the ARE, which is Architecture Registration Exam. And for interiors, it's a different path. And I'll let Jillian discuss that with you. But for architecture, once you start taking the ARE and you pass it, then you become a licensed architect. Now, the ARE is not an easy task to complete. I kind of see it as like the bar exam for lawyers, where it's, I believe that right now it's 5 tests, where that you have to, 5 or 6, 5, I think.
Yeah, it's down to 5.
It's down to 5. And each test says it's a different aspect of architecture. And you take that, and if you pass it and you pass all 5 of them, then you become a licensed architect. Do you need to do it to get into the industry? You don't need to have it in order to get into the industry, but it's very nice to have it complete and have something that you have accomplished yourself. There are some people that are not licensed architect that are in the industry and are doing things architectural wise. And there's a lot of them that are licensed in architect. So I would recommend that right after your college that you start doing that, because the more you prolong it, the less chance that you are to get it. So
and I would say to even start your architectural licensing process, and to get they've changed it from IDP, now it's AXP.
Oh.
But to even start those hours, you have to actually go through an accredited program, and that's something that I didn't personally know. And so I started off at UTSA, which had an accredited undergrad program, and it was I think it was a 4+1. So it's a 5-year program, and if you completed that program, you graduated essentially with your undergrad and master's kind of like combined, and you had your accreditation. Well, I transferred to A&M, and A&M's undergrad program is not accredited, and they don't have a 5-year. They have a 4.2, so you have to reapply after you graduate, reapply and go get your master's and do another 2 years.
Right. So, Krista, talk about what does accredited mean?
So, I don't know exactly.
So,
I mean, go ahead.
I can answer that. So, accredited architecture program means that the National Board, NCARB's National Certification of Architecture Registration Board, has recognized that the school's program meets all the criteria that they have set out that should be part of an architect's education. And so schools go through an accreditation process, or basically a review process by this national board, to make sure that they are still teaching all the correct topics that that the board feels architecture students need to be educated on in college. And so I'm glad Krista brought that up, because that is a stumbling block that many architecture students are not properly told about when they leave high school and they're choosing their college, is the fact that if you want to be an architect, you have to go to an accredited program. And there are many programs that are very good, but they're not accredited. And A&M, as Krista noted, is one of them. So you end up having to take an extra year of college, which is fine. You can do the 4-year undergrad and the 2-year master's path. You can do the 5-year program, which is what U of H offers, where in 5 years you actually have a bachelor's of architecture, which is a unique degree that architects have to have in order to sit for their architectural licensing exams.
Yeah, so you just make sure when you're applying to your colleges and stuff, if that's something that you really want. Because I had a lot of friends that went to A&M and they were in architecture, but they weren't really necessarily wanting to become architects. They just really like the design side of it and that mindset. And a lot of them are now in fashion or some type of marketing. So architecture does teach you a lot. It definitely builds your backbone through college. It's a great program, but just from my experience, I got burned from it and I had no idea. Nobody even told me until almost my end of my second sophomore year. And I was like, whoa, I really did that to myself. Like, I had no idea that I had gone from an accredited great program to still a great program, A&M. I'm still glad I went there, but it was a shocker to me that I did that to myself.
And that's really one of my pet peeves with with the industry's communication to our college and our high school's potential students, is the fact that we don't explain. It is a little more challenging process, but we as industry are working to get better at laying out what the steps are, what are the options, because again, not every option works for everyone. I myself, I have a 5-year Bachelor of Architecture degree. I never want to go back to school again. I don't need a master's. Industry people who are very interested in design theory and really, really heavy into that aspect of design are those people who do the 4-2 or the 5-year and then go back and get another master's for 1 or 2 more years. And so just helping our students understand all the options is really important, and what option works best for you, because even financially, a 5-year degree at a local state school is going to work out much better for someone who ends up at a 4-year college somewhere that's not accredited, and then they need to do another 2 or 3 years somewhere, and so the bills start adding up in that way.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing on top of that. That's also what we're discussing is for Texas. And there are other states where they have different requirements. So if you are planning on going to a different state, or maybe you're going into college in a different state, that's great. Just make sure you look at those requirements. And on the ncarb.org website, they should have most of that stuff lined out. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to find, but again, if you have questions on that, you can ask any of us, shoot us an email, and we'll be happy to help you figure that out, because we probably have all gone through that and trying to look for the same answers that maybe you're still looking for.
Right.
Can you
and just one final tidbit, sorry, Kareem. As Jandra pointed out, a license isn't required to work in architecture and design field and be successful at it. Like, there's different roles for everyone, but there is something very satisfying about enduring. And I say enduring because architecture school is an endurance race, enduring 5 to 6 years of architecture school, and then getting that final piece that says, I am a licensed architect. And while you can be successful and have a long career in architecture and design without a license, there are many firms that your promotion and your salary is affected by the fact that you are not licensed. And depending on where you work and what type of work you do, there is an impact to not having that final piece of the puzzle in place. So it's up to each of everyone to decide if that's important to them. For me personally, it was important, so I powered straight through. I wasn't going to suffer like I did in architecture school and then not have my license. So that's a thing to keep in mind, is that if you don't get your license, there is some impact to your career.
Definitely.
That's really great information. Can I just ask one thing about, I think some of you said you have a bachelor's in architecture, environmental design, interior design. Like, where's a good place to kind of get more information on those different types of degrees or certifications or paths within kind of the broader field? Where could students get more information so they could kind of begin to explore what avenue might be interesting to them?
So
go ahead, Chris.
So this was really confusing to me when I was a student, because at Texas A&M, for whatever reason, they call it environmental design. And I was looking, I was like, where? I just want a degree in architecture. Where does this say degree in architecture? And come to find out that was their degree in architecture. So looking, I think a good starting point is making sure that the college has a College of Architecture, and then kind of just going through the different degrees that they offer within that College of Architecture is usually a good starting point.
So most companies, I believe our company, require at least a Bachelor of Architecture. Mm-hmm. That's usually a 5-year degree, College of Architecture accomplishment, or a master's. So like what Krista was saying, A&M, they don't offer a Bachelor of Architecture, but they do offer a 3-year environmental science. 4-year, sorry. And then you have to take another year or two after that to get a Master's of Architecture. And that Master's of Architecture is equivalent, guess what, to the 5 years of a bachelor. So, you know, I would say the minimum is a Bachelor of Architecture to at least get into the industry, graduate out of high school. Jillian can talk about the interior.
Yeah, interiors is very similar in a lot of ways and different in some others. So my program was a 4-year program. I got a Bachelor's of Science in Interior Design, and I went to a CETA accredited program, which is Council of Interior Design Accreditation. It's the same type of thing that Krista, Jander, and Katura were just talking about, that schools have to apply for this certification, this accreditation, by meeting certain qualifications, and then if they do, they get their accreditation from that. And so to be a licensed interior designer, there's different paths that you can take. If you went to a CETA accredited school, your path is a little bit shorter in terms of work hours, experience hours that you have to have in order to even take the exams. And if you didn't go to a CETA accredited school, your work hours just increase. But it is on all of the resources that the CETA school website, the Council of Interior Design Accreditation website offers. They give a whole list of schools that are accredited. So I can send that link in the chat here in a second. But it is definitely advantageous to go to a program, if you're looking for interior design, to go to one that is accredited, because it significantly cuts down on the experience hours that you have to have after the fact. And so I'm personally in the middle of this right now. Since I went to a CETA accredited program, I have to have almost 4,000 hours of experience before I can take my last exams. There's 3 exams for interior design. You can take the first one immediately after you have your degree, and then the second 2 you have to take after you've met the hours requirement. So like I said earlier, if you've gone to a non-accredited program, that hours is significantly increased after that. So once you have all 3 exams passed, you then become a CIDQ, Council of Interior Design Qualification, licensed interior designer, and you are able to then stamp drawings just like the architects were talking about a second ago. So that means that it is your legal, yes, this is stamped on my approval that this is constructible, and all of the things that go along with that. So It's a very in-depth process. No, you do not have to be licensed as an interior designer to practice in the field, but much like Katura was just saying, there's a lot of benefits and it's very advantageous to take that route. And I'm already seeing that as I'm beginning to study for my exams. It helps you remember, recall all of the very important details that you do learn in school, and that becomes something that's ingrained in you. And so I can only imagine what it feels like once you have those numbers and letters after your name to be able to say, I did that. And I think it really is like a good check mark at the end of something very important that you've put your whole life into up till this far, going through so many years of school to be able to do so.
Great, thank you. Yeah, any of those links, if you guys can just put those in the chat feature, we'll save that and send it out. Okay, so Kristen, I'm going to bring you in to be able, no, Kirsten, did I say that? I think I've messed that up multiple times, sorry. Let's see if I can you unmute yourself? No. All right. I can't get her to unmute. So I will, I'll ask the question for you, and if we can get you unmute, we'll bring you back in. What are the aspects of architecture that you like, dislike the most, especially with environmental design?
Having a budget is one of the things that sometimes is frustrating when it comes to design. I'll let more of the design focused people on the panel put more on that, but also I think also a little bit some of the lack of attention to health, safety, and welfare that we as architects and interior designers are really stewards of. Sometimes our clients don't feel the same way. And so when we really like to include a very key feature of a design that's very beneficial for the future occupants, especially when it comes to schools, our clients sometimes don't support the direction that we would like to take the project. So them being the client and being the ones who hired us to give them the best solution possible, it can be frustrating when we can't get them on the same vision and path towards a good project. So I think for me personally, that's one of the key difficult things about working in the public environmental design aspect.
I'll say I actually started really thinking that I was going to go into more like culinary. I was really into baking, and I still am. I kind of do this as a side hobby. But I was trying to think of that, like I have really bad knees, and so like standing in the kitchen for a long period of time just didn't sound like maybe a great life career choice for me. And so trying to think of that and why I really liked baking so much. And the same thing with architecture is that at the end of the day, you have you have something that's physical product to produce, and you're giving something to someone, or you're designing something it's actually tangible, and they can touch it and they can feel it and they can experience it. And so all those aspects of each day when I go in, I'm not just drawing something that's going to go in a book and go on a shelf one day. Like it's something that's actually going to get built. It might take a couple of years to actually get built, but it's something that people can experience, and it's going to make an impact on with us being in schools, these students' lives, these teachers' lives, and it's going to enhance their education. So being able to remind myself of that, and to be able to walk the job sites and see our work out there is something that's really rewarding. And I find it very encouraging as we're working through some of the harder times that we might dislike, which like she was saying with the project budget, sometimes your client doesn't have millions and millions of dollars to spend on all the pretty things. But again, with that, it's a big puzzle and you have all these pieces. And if your pieces might cost a little bit less, like that's part of the challenge. So if you think of it that way, as a challenge, it is a little bit more exciting to kind of approach it that way.
To piggyback off of Krista and what Katura said, yeah, budget is, yeah, I don't like that either. But it is what it is. It's part of our industry. You know, we have a budget of whatever amount of dollars, and we as architects have to meet that budget. And yes, we want to put in marble countertops and, you know, gold-plated structural. I mean, can't do that, of course, because it's not feasible. You don't want to. The cost is going to go drive up. But also, what I dislike as well is project deadlines. You know, sometimes, you know, when clients say, hey, we need this project, you know, a month ahead of time, and you try to accommodate that. And yes, you tell the client, oh yes, you know, we'll get that done. But now your time management gets complicated, and now you have to meet that deadline. So in architecture, we have a start and then we have an end, and we have deadlines, dates that we have to meet. However you manage that, you know, you can work, you know, 10 hours a day or 24 hours, or you can work 6, 7, 8 hours. As long as you get your job done, that's the accomplishment. That is what you need to produce. What I like about it, I mean, I like going into the office every day, and like Jillian said, that there's a different problem every day. We work on very different projects, and going through that every day, it just makes my day go a lot faster. And I like doing it. Me personally, I like managing, but I also get into the weeds too. I've always said, you know, if I'm going to be a partner in a firm, I'm still going to be drawing. I love doing that. I'm still going to be getting in there. I'm still going to be drawing the floor plans, drawing the details. I just like to do that. And I am not going to let me becoming, you know, whatever, a management saying, oh, you're not supposed to do that. I'm still going to do that because that's what I like to do. That's why I enjoy every day going into work. And with me in the education industry, it was about 10, 15 years ago where I did a project. It was an elementary school, and I always attend the first day of class for that building. And I'm there, we're there, the company's there just saying, hey, offering support, you know, hey, this is where you go to room so-and-so, and there's the cafeteria, whatever. And the very first kid that came in when they opened the doors, he comes running in and he goes, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm going to this school. This is so awesome. I mean, he was just ecstatic. And that just made me say, wow, I did that for this kid. My team did this for this kid. And now he is enjoying school and enjoying his education because of me. And every time I go to a new school, brand new, they're ecstatic about what they are being in order to learn. And that just puts the cherry on top for me.
Yeah, like Jander, that's one of the biggest things about education architecture that I love is the immediate positive impact to the community that every single project has. Whether it's a remodel or new construction, once you do a new school for a community, you're changing the course of that community forever. And one of the most interesting aspects of architecture is the permanence we have on the world. Everything we do, whether it's good or bad, is there for at least 30 to 50 years. If you build it well, longer than that. So our our mistakes are there permanently unless we're able to fix them, and no one else knows about the mistake except us, and our successes are there permanently. And in education architecture, it is an immediate impact. And I've always been drawn to the technical and the construction side. So I still go on job sites. I was on a roof on last Tuesday. And so that is the other thing that I just love about this profession, is the fact that we get to watch something so permanent emerge from the ground step by step. And that's also why it's so important to have a good positive relationship with our contractor teams, because they are the team member who's making all this happen for us. You know, we have the vision, we put it on paper, we tell them how to put it together, and then they actually put it together. And to every project, I'm still giddy once we start pushing dirt on the job site, even though I don't get to go out on the job site as much as I used to. Every single construction project I'm excited about, and seeing just it come alive literally piece by piece is my favorite part about architecture.
Yeah, one thing I'll add to that is that design is really problem solving. Just like Jander was saying, we see problems that clients have. They tell us what they're struggling with or what's not working and what is working. And we hear those things and we respond and design their new facilities or updated facilities accordingly. And that's definitely for me the most rewarding part of my job, is the ability to hear people, to see people, and to know people on that level. Because it's a vulnerable place to be able to tell somebody like, yeah, here's all the junk, like here's what's not working, can you please help? And just to be able to use the skills that we've been taught and that we've practiced for a long time to be able to implement and make somebody's life day to day better is definitely super rewarding. Like they were all saying, it's a coincidence that we all work in educational design here on this panel, but it's super cool to get to know that the facilities that we're designing are shaping the leaders of tomorrow, are shaping the people that are really going to take the lead and take the charge and move our nation, our world into tomorrow. And so that is for sure the coolest thing for me. I also think another part of that is, although it is limitations with budget and there's always hard things that come up, because it is problem solving, that kind of makes it fun. And most recently, I've been working on a project in an area of geography that was recently completely wiped out by some hurricanes a couple of years ago. And so in the wake of that, all of these educational facilities, schools from ages K through 12 were wiped, and they're now just surviving in very minimally furnished and minimally designed facilities. It's really sad to see, but we've been able to work alongside these people in this district to be able to help master plan for the future and plan what is coming, which is a whole nother area of architecture and design that's so fun and so cool to get to watch, that maybe you don't see the impact right then and there, but you're helping write what is going to be affected in 5, 10, 15 years to come, that will continue to make that impact long lasting. And so although we were working with FEMA funding for disaster relief and very low budgets, we were able to still bring high quality design at whatever budget it might be. And that's something that's so cool, is that design can be accessible and equitable for any population. It doesn't matter the types of challenges that have been faced. We still have the duty and responsibility and opportunity to bring the same type of design to everybody. Even if like budgets and circumstances are different, everybody deserves the right and the ability to learn well and grow. So that's definitely my favorite part.
I love hearing and seeing you guys and the passion that you have for what you do, and finding that Jillian, just like you were saying, the finding the job that you love to where you're doing it every day and it's not just another job, but it's passion and it's a career. And thank you guys for kind of showing light into that. Monica, would you like to ask a question?
Sure. And I love the fact that, Jillian, I love that you said problem solving, because so much of what I hear echoed in all the comments is problem solving. You know, it'll be interesting now how a situation like COVID, does that mean that you have to space classrooms differently? Does that mean that you have to incorporate technology into rooms in different ways, right? So constantly adapting to environments that might be changing to problem solve within budgets, within timelines. And I love that. What professional accomplishment are you proud of? What building did you build? What is something that you overcame, or what when you look at your career thus far, what do you say, I did that, and get excited about it?
I guess for me, as far as one individual project, I guess my very first one, because I know that and then it was elementary school in Conroe ISD. It was actually Darrichin Elementary School. So I did that one. That was my very first one that I was I was told by my boss at the time, oh, I'm going to help you, take that next step. And yeah, he just made an excuse not to go. And I don't know if he did that intentionally, but he did that. And I was just kind of thrown in there to the lion's den. And, I took control of it. And I'm so proud that I accomplished that all by myself, the very first one. And then I guess just the number of projects that I've been a part of. I stopped counting, but just that sense that that's my greatest accomplishment professionally.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Like, the one that stands out the most is always like one of my first projects. And it was actually like a STEM high school for Houston ISD. And that one, there was a lot of moving parts when I joined the firm, and a lot of different things going on, not just like within our firm. One of our designers ended up getting very sick, and so a lot of team members had to jump on and kind of just help figure out some stuff there. Another, I think the project manager or the current project coordinator moved to Denver, and so it was like all these parts, and I kind of came in and helped them. I wasn't really even assigned to that project, but then 2 years later, I was fully engulfed in it, and I spent a really long time and actually became really good, I would say even friends now, with the principal and her team there, because it was such a hands-on project, and I feel like it really did help kind of kickstart me from the college mindset to the professional mindset, and I learned so much from it, and I'm so grateful for that project. But I definitely think that one will always have a special place in my heart. And then the project that I'm currently working on, which is one of the largest projects that like our Houston office has actually had. It's a high school for Waller, and this one has just really taught me so much. And I think it's those experiences of like, you're always learning, and I think I'll be learning through my whole career, and you're just going to keep building on your accomplishments and what you kind of find has been beneficial to your career.
These accomplishments are, these elementary schools, the K through 12 market that we deal with, elementary school, just to put it in perspective, is going for around $20 million. I mean, depending on the size. And, a high school can go up to, last time it was $150, $170 million. So they can, think about that. And you're in charge of that project.
Well, what's crazy is, like, I think we were talking about this with some of my team members, is that in education, we kind of get lost in like all these big numbers and how big the footprint is, because that's just what we deal with every day. But then I talk to friends that are in retail and or even like smaller commercial buildings, and they're like the size of one maybe classroom wing, you know, which is like 6 classrooms, and we have almost 30 classrooms in this building. It's crazy to wrap your mind around, and just I guess it's a pat on the back just to our whole team of what we're doing here is really big and very rewarding work.
Yeah, exact same feelings that both Krista and Jander have expressed. I also, my personal professional accomplishment that I'm probably most proud of is, so like I said, I decided to be an architect at age 15, and I immediately started researching the steps and the requirements and the fastest path from sophomore year of high school to full registered architect. And so I set a plan for myself to, okay, once I hit college, I'm going to do this in 10 years. I'm going to get all my education done. I'm going to get all my internship done. I'm going to get all my license, my exams done. I'm going to get all done in 10 years. And I did that I started college in the summer of 2000, and I got my license in the fall of 2009. So I actually hit it with a few months left cushion on the calendar. But just knowing that I kept that promise to myself is something that I use to push myself to keep other promises to myself in the now and in the future, and always look back as that being a reference point for when you really want something, you know how to get it done. So if you're not, me personally, talking to myself, if you're not getting something done, then you really don't want it that badly, and you need to, reevaluate. And so, as I said before, your path in architecture looks different for every person, but I knew what I wanted my path to be. I knew what it wanted to look like. And so I have consciously taken steps to stay on that path and get that path done in a certain time frame that I've wanted it to happen.
And just for me, I already touched on mine a little bit, but in my fairly short career thus far, the project I mentioned a minute ago, that was the district had been wiped out with hurricanes, has definitely been one of the most rewarding for me. And none of those schools have been built yet, and nothing has been specified or bought. No furniture has been ordered, but because of what we produced, it ended up being like a 600 to 700 page master plan plus an appendix with furniture, specifications, and all of the details that went into it. We have this beautiful document now that has been delivered to this district, and the whole community has rallied around this effort that the district is going through, and saying just how special it is, and just to see those reactions and to hear of them, to hear what these people are saying, and these community members who are going to be deeply impacted by somebody who said, yes, we will engage with you on this, we will work together, and let's figure out a better future and a better tomorrow. That's just so cool to see. And it just shows that things that you put your mind to and things that you decide to work with other people on, it shows that unity is more powerful than anything. Because when we come together, every person on this call has a different mind and a different mindset of what we do. And so when we come together, we are all the more powerful and all the more effective for the people that we're working with, and get the opportunity to impact each other's lives. And although I keep talking about how this was so cool to get to watch their lives impacted, I can firmly say that my life has been exactly as impacted, or in some comparable measure, just by having the opportunity to work on it. Because to see those who maybe sometimes are not believed in, have somebody believe in them, and hand them something that says, no, you do have a chance, keep dreaming. And now to see that happen, it is impactful to me, and has made me really consider just where am I not dreaming, and where am I putting myself down and not giving myself opportunity, and let me open up my perspectives too. So everything that we do for other people has just an equal impact on us if we let it. So that's definitely the coolest part for me.
Thank you. Looks like we've got time for one more question. So Santiago has submitted a second one, so I'm going to bring him in, and this will be our last question for today's session.
Hello again. Right now I'm interested in both a career in architecture or in engineering. And my dad is actually a civil engineer. So my question was, do you work closely with engineers, and what are the differences between a civil engineer and an architect?
So Santiago, yeah, that's one of our main job functions in our office every day. So we have to work with all of our engineers, because a building is not built without the engineering. As far as a civil engineer, so civil engineer, for those that don't know, is kind of, they do pretty much everything outside of the building, anything site related. Structural engineer, of course, is structural, steel, the skeleton of a building, so to speak. They're responsible for that. Then you have your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. Those, again, the mechanical, the AC, electrical, all the lighting, the power, plumbing, all the toilet fixtures, anything that has to deal with underground piping and stuff. And there's other engineers that come into. There's a landscape architect that sometimes that we have to deal with. Again, those are your main engineers, but we work very closely, and that's when I say communication, that's a very key part in my everyday life in our office, that we have to, once we do something, we have to then communicate, relay whatever change, whatever revision that we're doing, so that way the engineer can tell us, hey, you can do that, or no, you can't do that. We hardly accept no for an answer, but that's the struggle that we have to deal with the engineers. So yes, we do work very, very closely with the engineers. And on a side note for that, we all have connections with other engineering. So if you want to become a mechanical, electrical, or structural, or even a civil engineer, we have some connections where, just like architecture, don't be afraid if you want us to get you in touch with some of those guys, and you can visit their office and you can talk to them. Corrine, Monica, I'm not sure if there's an engineering side of this too. I know I tried to get some engineers, and you let me know if they didn't, and I will talk to them. But if there isn't, and if you're interested in that aspect, an architect engineer pretty much have similar work ethics. So what you do in the office and your communication. So if you visit our architecture firm, you can kind of get a sense of, okay, this is how an engineer works as well. But if you want to get more in depth of, the certification that they need to have, then we can connect you to those people also.
Mm-hmm. And like you, Santiago, as I mentioned earlier, I was trying to decide between architecture and engineering as well. And I spent a semester interning with Bechtel, which is an engineering firm here in Houston. And I interned with their architectural engineering department for a semester. And then the spring semester, I interned with an architecture firm. And so that gave me the opportunity to see how both work environments work, what type of work each office was doing at the time. Architectural engineering is not an official discipline. So the Bechtel, looking back, the Bechtel version of architectural engineering was a mix of mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and structural, kind of all together in the same department, really. So if you get the opportunity to test each type of office, I really encourage you to pursue that. And when I talked earlier about relationship building, good relationships with your engineers is also key to project success, because we may be trying to do something. Usually architects are trying to do something very ambitious, even in K-12 school design, and our engineers, they'll say, no, we can't do that. But if you have a good relationship and you're working with a good engineer, they will offer you an idea on how to accomplish what we want to accomplish within budget, within schedule, within our client requirements. And they'll also do it on time and not, send you drawings 3 days late and things like that. So really, really working well with your engineers is a key aspect of being successful in architecture.
Yeah, and I was going to add that I always tell my friends that, like, you're not an expert in any of the, like in architecture, you don't have to be an expert in plumbing, structural, or mechanical engineering, but you have to have at least a well understanding of it to be able to produce the best product. Because if you go in there just kind of blind and you're just saying, well, I want this built and I don't care, like I just want it built, they're sending it to your consultants and you don't have kind of a solution or at least an understanding of it, it's going to be a much harder process. And for me, like structural engineering is very hard for me to wrap my head around. And through school, it was one of my hardest topics for me. I really struggled through it. I have a problem with if I can't visually see it and like these forces that they're talking about, if I can't see it and touch it, it's hard for me to completely understand. And so that's always been a struggle for me. But like she was saying, the structural engineers will really work with you, especially if you take the time to talk to them. You can learn so much from your engineers, and I really enjoy that part of it, of the coordination and just the collaboration between the architect and our engineers, because at the end of the day, we're all one big team. We all work at different places, different offices, but we're a team together, and we have to have them in order to see that final product and to have all that great then result that we were talking about earlier is not just because of the architect, it's because of our engineers as well.
Yes, we do have our civil engineering panel is Thursday and our mechanical engineering panel is Friday.
Which companies?
Say that again?
Which companies are?
Wide range. You would put me on the spot.
I'm just curious if my guys are in it.
Who are your guys? We can talk later, and I can let you know.
Okay.
Because I am still looking for some. But so students, if you have not signed up for those, I encourage you to still register to be able to attend those, just so that you kind of can hear their perspective on what it is that they do and how they work with the architects. And so before we wrap up, I would like for our students to, in the chat feature, let us know one thing that you learned, your takeaway, something that you've appreciated hearing from our panelists today.